Morning light spills across a modest auto shop tucked beside a railroad track. Ethan Cole wipes the grease from his hands as the rumble of an old truck fades into the distance. This is his sanctuary, the scent of motor oil, the hum of tools, the familiar whisper of metal against metal. Every day begins the same, and that's how he likes it. His late father taught him that engines never lie. They only reveal what's hidden if you listen close enough. Ethan works not just to fix machines, but to restore order in a noisy, dishonest world. Beyond the open garage door, the town stretches. Worn buildings, faded signs, and people just trying to make ends meet. As he adjusts a carburetor, Ethan glances at a framed photo of his mother, Ruth. He smiles softly. She believes he's destined for more, but Ethan's content, or so he tells himself. The quiet hum of the morning breaks with the sputter of an expensive engine. A sleek black sedan pulls into the gravel lot, its hood smoking faintly. Ethan frowns. Not a usual customer. The car's doors glide open, and out steps Clara Davenport, elegant in a gray tailored suit. She's on her phone, irritated, tapping her heel against the dirt. To Ethan, she looks entirely out of place here, like a silver swan in a puddle. Their eyes meet briefly before she turns away, her tone clipped, impatient. Ethan approaches calmly, wiping his hands on his rag. Looks like she's overheated, he says with quiet authority. Clara barely nods. She's not used to waiting, especially not for someone like him. Yet, for the first time in a long time, her world isn't in control. Ethan opens the hood, studying the engine like a doctor, reading a patient's chart. Clara watches, her frustration turning to curiosity. He doesn't rush or fumble, every movement deliberate, confident. You run her hard, Ethan remarks softly. She's not built for pushing this far without care. Clara raises an eyebrow. No one talks to her that way. But there's no judgment in his voice, only understanding. She senses it, though she won't admit it. The silence between them thickens, filled with the sound of tools clinking. For a moment, her phone buzzes. She ignores it. In that instant, her world of deadlines and demands feels 1,000 miles away. Give it an hour, Ethan says, voice steady, as he wipes his hands. Clara sighs, checking her watch, then hesitates. The small waiting area is cluttered with magazines and the faint smell of coffee and gasoline. She sits reluctantly, scanning the room. Photographs of Ethan's father hang beside an old certificate of apprenticeship. It's humble, sincere, untouched by pretense. Slowly, her guard lowers. She studies Ethan from across the shop. The quiet diligence, the lack of urgency for anything beyond the task at hand. It's alien to her world, yet strangely grounding. For the first time that morning, she stops checking her phone. Whoa, NCC, and Carol, As Ethan finishes tightening the final bolt, the engine hums back to life. Steady, strong, honest. He steps back, satisfied. Clara approaches, expecting a formal handoff. Maybe an invoice. But Ethan simply says, "You're good to go." No flourish, no sales pitch. Just truth. She looks at him, uncertain how to respond. Just needed care, not parts. The simplicity disarms her. She drives away, but her gaze lingers in the rearview mirror. On that small shop, that man who fixed more than an engine. Something within her shifts, quietly, like a spark finding air. A week passes. Rain falls steady over the small town, turning streets into mirrors of light. Inside his garage, Ethan works in rhythm with the weather. Slow, steady, patient. He hums to himself as the radio crackles with an old blues tune. The sound of the storm feels like company. Across town, in a gleaming office high above the city, Clara stares out through glass walls, her reflection framed against thunderclouds. Something about that mechanic lingers in her thoughts. The calm in his voice, the lack of pretense. She shakes her head, dismissing it as nonsense, but the seed has been planted. She misses something she can't name. Something real. Clara's assistant enters, asking if she'll attend a meeting. She waves it off. Her eyes drift to a small grease smudge on her car's dashboard, a remnant of Ethan's touch. For a reason she can't explain, she doesn't clean it. She picks up her keys, impulsively deciding to drive. The city gives way to open road. Rain softens. The world feels less controlled, less scripted. When she turns the corner and sees Ethan's shop in the distance, she tells herself she's here to check the work. But deep down, it's not the car she wants to see. It's the man who spoke to her like she was human. The bell above the garage door jingles softly as Clara steps in, raincoat glistening. Ethan looks up, surprised but not unsettled. "Back already?" he asks, with a half-smile. She hesitates, feeling oddly shy. "It's still running fine," she replies. "Just wanted to make sure it stays that way." They both know that's not true. He nods, sensing her discomfort but choosing kindness over confrontation. As he checks the car again, the silence between them feels less awkward this time, almost comfortable. The hum of rain outside becomes their unspoken conversation. Ruth calls from the back room, teasing Ethan about having a fancy visitor. Clara laughs, the first genuine laugh in days. She introduces herself properly, shaking Ruth's hand. Ruth, ever perceptive, sees something in Clara's eyes, exhaustion hidden behind confidence. "You must do something important," Ruth says kindly. Clara replies, "Some people think so." For a moment, she isn't a CEO or a client, just a woman welcomed into warmth she's long forgotten. Ethan watches quietly as two worlds meet, unsure what to make of it, but feeling something quietly shift inside him. As the rain subsides, Clara stands by her car, reluctant to leave. "Thank you," she says, and it carries more weight than before. Ethan nods, unsure what to say. She hesitates, then adds, "You ever think about working somewhere bigger? You're good at this." He shrugs. Bigger doesn't always mean better. She studies him for a beat. The calm certainty, the grounded simplicity. Driving away this time, she doesn't just see a mechanic in her rearview mirror. She sees someone whose life feels more complete than hers, and she can't shake the question why. Days turn into a rhythm of visits. Small excuses. Routine checks. Strange noises. None of which really exist. Clara keeps showing up, sometimes with coffee, sometimes just for conversation. Ethan notices, but he doesn't ask why. He listens as she talks, not about business or boardrooms, but about silence, about being tired of people wanting things. For the first time, she's being heard, not managed. Ethan doesn't offer advice. He simply listens. That quiet attention feels like sunlight after years of shade. Outside, the town carries on, unaware that something extraordinary is quietly taking root between Greece and grace. Later that afternoon, Clara helps Ethan clean up the shop, something she's clearly never done before. She laughs as oil stains her fingers, wincing at the mess. "Guess I'm not built for this," she says. "Neither was I," Ethan replies softly. Their eyes meet, and for a fleeting moment, the space between their worlds collapses. Ruth watches from the doorway, smiling faintly. To her, it's clear. Something real is forming here, born not from romance but recognition. Two lonely hearts finding rhythm in simplicity. Outside, the sun dips low, turning the world to amber. As twilight deepens, Ethan drives Clara home for the first time after her car refuses to start. The road is quiet, the hum of his old pickup steady. She studies the cracked dashboard, the scent of pine and worn leather. "This truck's older than me," she teases, "and still runs better than most new ones," he says, grinning. They fall into comfortable silence, rare for her. natural for him. When he drops her off outside her gated residence, she hesitates before getting out. "Thanks, Ethan," she says, softer than usual. He nods, eyes gentle. "Anytime." For the first time, she feels the weight of returning to her empty, echoing house. Inside her penthouse, Clara moves through silence. Glass walls, marble floors, the faint hum of the city below. Everything looks perfect, but feels hollow. She stands at the window, remembering the laughter in that small garage, the smell of coffee and rain. She realizes how long it's been since she felt seen. Not as a CEO, but as a person. Her reflection in the glass looks unfamiliar, tired, alone, human. For the first time, she allows herself to cry, not from weakness, but release. Outside, lightning flashes across the skyline, illuminating the emptiness she's lived in for years. The next morning, Clara drives back to the shop. No excuse this time. Ethan looks up, surprised but smiling. "Didn't expect you today," he says. "I didn't either," she admits. She hands him a paper bag, breakfast sandwiches. "For you and your mom." Ruth beams as Clara sets it down. The gesture is small, but for Clara, it's monumental. The first genuine act of giving without an agenda. As they eat together, the air feels lighter, warmer. It's no longer a transaction, it's trust. Outside, sunlight finally breaks through the clouds, painting the world in gold. A week later, Clara arrives at the garage again, but this time, she's not alone. A sleek black SUV pulls in behind her, carrying Marcus, her head of security, and another executive from her company. They're here to discuss potential business. Ethan looks up from under the hood of a pickup, caught off guard. Marcus eyes him with quiet disdain, muttering, "This the guy?" Clara's expression stiffens. The warmth between them freezes in an instant, replaced by corporate detachment. She introduces Ethan formally, her tone distant. Ethan's smile falters. He feels suddenly small, like a display piece in someone else's story. Marcus begins asking questions. Sharp, invasive ones. "You ever consider franchising? You could make a fortune if we backed you." Ethan's jaw tightens. He doesn't answer right away. Clara stands nearby, arms crossed, watching. "I like things the way they are," Ethan says quietly. Marcus laughs under his breath. "Small dreams, huh?" The words sting more than they should. Clara says nothing. Ethan feels her silence heavier than the insult itself. For the first time, he looks at her and doesn't recognize the woman standing there. She glances away, unable to meet his eyes. The air between them turns cold. When they leave, Ethan stays behind in silence. Ruth approaches, sensing the storm beneath his calm exterior. "You all right, honey?" she asks softly. He shakes his head. "She brought them here like I'm some project." His voice cracks, barely audible. Ruth lays a hand on his shoulder. Maybe she doesn't see what she's done. Sometimes people forget kindness doesn't need witnesses. Ethan nods, but his eyes drift toward the road where Clara's car disappeared. The trust they built feels fractured, not broken yet, but fragile as glass. Somewhere deep down, he wonders if she ever saw him as an equal at all. That night, Clara sits alone in her office, the city sprawling beneath her like a constellation of glass and fire. Marcus's words replay in her mind, but so does the look on Ethan's face. Disappointment, hurt, dignity. She realizes what she's done, yet pride holds her still. She's built her whole life on control, on never appearing weak. Apologizing would mean admitting she's human, something she's spent years hiding behind her title. Her reflection in the glass seems to judge her. "You wanted to help him," she whispers to herself. But the voice that answers back, the one that sounds like Ethan, says, "No, you wanted to own it." The next morning, Clara returns to the shop. Ethan is outside, fixing a customer's tire. She walks up, unsure how to begin. About yesterday, she says. He doesn't look up. You don't have to explain. His voice is calm, but the warmth is gone. I brought them because, she starts. Because you thought I needed saving? His words cut deeper than anger. They carry quiet truth. She opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. The silence between them is heavier than any argument. She leaves, the sound of gravel under her heels fading until only the hum of his air compressor remains. Ethan spends the next few days working in silence. The radio stays off. The coffee goes cold. His hands move out of habit, but his mind drifts elsewhere. To the moment Clara turned away, to the look in her eyes that mirrored his own hurt. Ruth notices, but doesn't press. Engines can't fix, she says, gently. Ethan forces a smile, but deep down, he knows she's right. He's built his life around fixing what's broken. Machines, problems, routines. Yet when it comes to people, he feels powerless. For the first time, his small shop feels too quiet, too empty. Across town, Clara attends a company gala, her world in full glittering force. The chandeliers shimmer, the champagne flows, and conversations hum like machinery, but she feels detached, observing it all through a pane of invisible glass. The people around her praise her leadership, her decisiveness, her brilliance, the same words that used to thrill her. Now, they echo hollowly. She excuses herself, stepping outside into the cool night. The city wind catches her hair. Somewhere in the distance, she imagines the low hum of Ethan's garage. The warmth of a world without pretense. Her eyes sting, though she's not sure why. Clara drives aimlessly after the gala. The streets blur past. Neon, rain, reflection. She ends up outside the small auto shop, engine idling, headlights cutting through the dark. She doesn't go in. Instead, she sits there, staring at the dim, closed sign. Her throat tightens. She realizes she's not here for repair or redemption. She's here because, for the first time in her life, she wants to understand. To be understood. The sound of the rain against the windshield becomes rhythmic, almost comforting. "What am I doing?" she whispers. But part of her already knows the answer. Meanwhile, Ethan sits in his mother's kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. Ruth stirs her tea, watching him. "You think she meant to hurt you?" she asks. He shakes his head. "Doesn't matter. People like her don't stay." Ruth smiles faintly. "People like her or people like you?" The question lands hard. Ethan looks up, realizing he's spent his life assuming the world only had one lane for him. Small. Safe. Invisible. "Maybe," Ruth says softly, "you're scared she saw more in you than you see in yourself." Ethan doesn't answer, but something in his eyes shifts, a quiet, fragile spark. The next morning, the rain has stopped. Ethan opens the shop early, the air still cool and heavy with dew. He moves slower than usual, deep in thought. As he wipes the windows, he finds a folded note taped to the door. No signature, just 2 words. "I'm sorry." His hand trembles slightly. He looks out toward the empty road, the sunrise breaking over the horizon. For a long moment, he doesn't move. Then, quietly, he smiles, small but real. Some engines, he realizes, don't need fixing. They just need time to start again. Clara steps into the shop that morning without hesitation. She carries a simple bouquet of wildflowers, picked from the roadside on her way in. Ethan glances up from under a hood, surprised but wary. "Morning," she says softly. "For you and your mom." Ethan raises an eyebrow, unsure what to say. Ruth appears from the back, her face lighting up at the sight. The flowers are humble, imperfect. Much like this small shop, much like Ethan himself. Clara's gesture speaks louder than any apology she could have voiced. Words are unnecessary. The sincerity in her eyes says it all. Something unspoken passes between them, the beginning of trust restored. They spend the morning together in quiet conversation. Clara listens as Ethan explains a complex engine repair, not as a lesson, but as sharing his passion. She asks questions, genuinely curious, not for control, not for leverage. Ethan notices the subtle shift. She's not here to dominate, she's here to understand. The hum of tools, the smell of oil, the warmth of the sun spilling into the garage, all that feels like a bridge between two very different lives. By the time the lunch bell rings, laughter has returned, soft but real, filling the spaces that had been tense and empty for weeks. Later, Ethan shows Clara his modest backyard garden. Tomatoes, herbs, and a small patch of wildflowers. He tends it with care, hands working the soil as if coaxing life from it. Clara watches, quietly moved. "You create life where you can," she observes softly. Ethan shrugs, modesty in his posture. "Sometimes it's easier than fixing people," he jokes lightly. She smiles, but it's a reflective smile. She sees the difference between this world and her corporate one. Here, patience, humility, and integrity hold value money cannot buy. She realizes she has been chasing things that matter far less than she imagined. Clara's phone buzzes constantly, reminders of meetings, calls, decisions. She ignores them all. Here, in the shop and garden, none of it matters. Ethan watches her moment of stillness, noticing the tension in her shoulders finally easing. "You should take care of yourself," he says gently. She laughs softly, a sound she doesn't remember hearing from herself in years. "Maybe I will," she replies, meaning it for the first time. It is a turning point, an acknowledgement that her life doesn't have to be measured by schedules or power. Here, she can simply be human. As the sun sets, Ethan and Clara step outside, looking at the quiet street. She turns to him, eyes serious but tender. "I underestimated you," she admits. "I thought I was helping, but I didn't understand." Ethan shakes his head, smile faint but sincere. Sometimes understanding is enough. Silence follows, comfortable and profound. For the first time, both recognize the value of humility, trust, and authenticity. Their worlds, once divided by wealth and expectation, feel bridged, not erased, but harmonized. The sunset washes the town in gold, a quiet promise that new beginnings are possible when hearts meet in honesty. Morning light spills over the small town once more, but today feels different. Charged with possibility. Ethan is outside the shop, finishing up a repair on a customer's old pickup. Clara approaches quietly, a gentle smile on her face. "I've been thinking," she begins. Ethan pauses, hands on the engine. She holds his gaze. "I want to help, but not by giving, by investing in what you already have." His brow furrows, curiosity mixed with caution. The small shop, the smell of oil, the hum of engines, everything that defines Ethan's life is about to take a leap beyond his imagination. Clara explains her plan. A small investment to expand the shop, purchase better equipment, and hire apprentices from the community. "I don't want to control it," she says. "I just want to see it thrive." Ethan listens, stunned but quietly thrilled. It's not charity, not a handout, it's recognition. He realizes she sees him not as a project, not as someone to save, but as someone capable of greatness in his own right. A warmth spreads through his chest, the kind that only comes from being truly understood and respected. Ethan walks Clara through the shop, showing her plans he's already imagined. A small learning corner for apprentices, upgraded tools, a community board for mentoring. Clara nods approvingly, clearly impressed by his foresight and humility. "You've done all this already," she says softly. "I just give you the wings." Ethan laughs quietly. the sound full of relief and gratitude. For the first time, he realizes that success doesn't have to be measured in solitude or struggle. Sometimes it comes from shared vision and mutual respect. That evening, the first apprentice arrives, a young local teenager, wide-eyed and eager. Ethan greets him, showing him how to handle the tools safely, while Clara watches from the doorway, hands clasped together. It's simple, ordinary, yet extraordinary. A microcosm of change. Life is being transformed not by power or wealth, but by authenticity and mentorship. Clara feels a quiet satisfaction, a far deeper fulfillment than any boardroom or gala ever gave her. Ethan realizes that sometimes allowing help doesn't diminish one's own integrity, it amplifies it. The sun dips low, bathing the shop in gold. Ethan and Clara stand outside, side by side, looking over the quiet street. Neither needs to speak. The world feels right, balanced. Clara's presence is no longer intimidating. Ethan's confidence, no longer tentative. They have changed each other, subtly but profound. Ethan smiles, thinking of all the engines he's fixed over the years, realizing this one, the human connection, is the most important yet. Clara nods, the weight of loneliness lifted by understanding and trust. Life, they both know now, thrives in humility, authenticity, and the courage to embrace unexpected connections.